Hi, it's Todd of Todd's Workshop and Todd Cutler here. And today we're going to talk about sets of knives. These were really common in the medieval period. And what I mean by sets of knives are things like this. So you've got a Swiss dagger here, which is the main arm in this scabbard. But it's double-sided, it is a dagger. It is not good for anything else. People didn't eat from their daggers. There's no such thing as banqueting daggers. You would eat using your eating knife, but then also other tasks around camp, just cutting up a bit of rope or something. It's always going to be useful to have a smaller knife than it is a great big long double-sided dagger. So these small collections of knives were a very common thing in the medieval period, because that way you get to carry everything that you want in a single place at a single time. But they did this on different dagger forms, lots of different dagger forms, even sword scabbards as well. But for some reason, this setup with having by knives, as they're called, on the main scabbard is a particularly German thing. They loved doing it. So this is another German example here. It's a Bernware. And again, you've got the main dagger here. But then also you have two further small eating knives just in separate pockets. And then the last implement is a pricker. Now that's literally is just a spike. Now, you did use them for eating, but also they were a sort of a multi-purpose tool as well. You can use it for making holes in leather, loosening straps, undoing knots. So it's the sort of thing when you're out on campaign, you're out working in the fields. This is a farmer's knife. It's just a handy tool to have. So it has lots of different purposes. Now that thinking is sort of extended on. You see in the medieval times, you see quite a lot of two-piece sets like this. So you've got the pricker again, and you've got the eating knife. You've got everything in one place. It's very handy, because we need to consider, of course, that you carry your cutlery with you. Because when you are out in the fields, or you stop by somebody's house, or you're in the kitchens of a great house, or whatever it might be, they will not have eating implements for you. You have to provide your own. Now this is a three-piece set. There are plenty of two-piece sets in the medieval records. You find them. I have never yet seen a three-piece set of a pricker, a knife, and in this case a brass spoon. But what I would say about that is the medieval people seem to really like having sets of objects. You see it again and again, whether it's a hunting set, surgery set, knife sets, even sword scabbards with knives on. I would expect that somebody somewhere made a three-piece set. So the fact that I haven't seen one, I think personally doesn't preclude the fact that they would have existed. It's just a logical thing. Then again, the same is true for cooking sets. If you're in a kitchen, then you hang the knives up on the wall. Very often you'll see holes in larger cooking knives here. But you will also find that people would have used scabbards like this one. So here we just very simply have two fairly plain cooking knives, but they're in a single scabbard, because that sort of thing is good for campaign. You just pick up one object. It's always just very handy to have your objects in one place. But then very particularly, I'll show you this big beastie here. And this is a set of presentation knives, serving knives for the table. So very high status, tooled scabbard, very attractively done. And this is not a set of cooking knives, but you have big knives like this one here, which is a chopping knife. You have a mincing or a carving knife here. And then you have a tart knife, or again a serving knife. Now all of these are just housed in a single scabbard. You see objects much like this one very often as either hunting sets or for doctor sets. So again, you'll see cased tools of doctor's equipment done in the same way. Another thing to consider is the way that these sheaths are constructed, because this one here is constructed basically exactly as you'd expect a knife sheath to be constructed. That you've got a liner in this case that holds the main knife, leather is stretched around, and then is just sewn up the back here. So it's a very normal scabbard construction, even though you've got some extra elements built into it. This scabbard here, for this multiple piece set, and you see this a lot, especially on cased ones where you've got a lid on them, is the whole thing has been done with basically bookbinding techniques. So there is no sewing in this scabbard anywhere, not a bit of it. So it is just layer upon layer of leather, which is shaped formed into the shapes you want, which you do with a slightly damp veg-tan leather, and then it's bonded together. And as the glue is drying and cooling down, then you're just pushing it into shape and it all sticks down. Now you see that on these case knives. You don't see it on cruder, simpler knife scabbards such as this. But then if we look at this last example here, you have sewing up the back of the scabbard, which is up back of the sheath, which is what you would expect. But then if we take that out and we just have a look in there, you can see that it is, again, just bonded leather. So this one, in fact, is a combination between bonded leather at the top, and then that is overlaid onto a stitched scabbard. And that allows you a very precise, very carefully made, fitted scabbard, which you would struggle to do if you were sewing it. Is a way of manufacture that you also see in higher status sheaths, on higher status knives. Not because it's a higher status way of making a knife sheath, it just allows you to do some other things that sewing does not allow you to do. So this particular dagger here is a copy of one in the Rothenberg collection and is a mid to late 15th century Burgundian rondel. And there you have it, medieval knife sets. It's a way of keeping all of your important objects in one place, one easy to carry, handy to pick up depending on the size of the object, collection of parts. It keeps your very valuable possessions in one place and in a place where you know where they are and where you can find them and use them when you need to. Also looks cool. Thanks.